Hi, I'm Larry Cox for DIY Road Cases. Today's installment are going to be some helpful tips regarding saw blades and the cutting of extrusions. First, let me remind you that you'll need a saw that can make 45-degree miter cuts for your tongue and groove or anything else that you might want to bring together at a 90-degree angle, like a picture frame. Most chop saws do have a miter cut, not all of them, but you'll definitely want one. Now, regarding chop saws, most of the chop saws come with some form of an abrasive wheel type blade as opposed to a typical cutting blade. Now, these work fine for cutting through the aluminum. They make a lot of noise and it's kind of a rough cut, but the drawback to that is that due to the heat generated within that abrasive wheel grinding into the extrusion, it has a tendency to create a lot of heat and a melting effect on the aluminum as it cuts. And therefore your cut joint can get some debris and melted metal in there that you gotta kind of bend and pull out a little bit, and it's just not a super clean cut. It doesn't really present any problems, but some folks, like me, prefer a nice clean cut. So from the chop saw then we would move on to a compound miter saw, which works great for cutting your 45-degree angles, and you can also interchange the blades on that, and you can put on a good blade for cutting aluminum. So either way, whichever way you decide to go, you could put one of these blades on a chop saw as well. I prefer the miter saw, but you're going to need a blade that's best for cutting aluminum extrusions as opposed to wood or steel or anything, to give you that nice, clean, smooth cut. We sell cutting blades on our website, on our online store, which work great and they're a great price. Once again, like the adhesives we talked about in another installment, if for some reason you need a blade and you don't have time to order it from us and get it shipped, then the only blade that we recommend for chop saws or miter saws is the Freud Diablo D1080N. That's a 10-inch blade. They also make one that comes in a 7 1/4-inch blade for smaller miter saws. And it's basically like an 80-tooth blade, which is made for cutting non-ferrous metals, which aluminum falls under. You wouldn't want to use this to cut steel, just like you really wouldn't want to use a steel cutting blade for the aluminum. Just a little bit different purpose in the way they work. To get a nice clean cut in aluminum, you definitely want a non-ferrous metals cutting blade. Now, if you're not going to use a chop saw or a miter saw, you can certainly use a jig saw, aka saber saw. This will work fine. We also sell blades for those, aluminum cutting blades for the jig saw. If you can't get it from us for some reason, then the only one that we recommend is the Bosch T123X Progressor metal cutting blade. That's the only one other than the one that we sell. All you'll need is something to hold the extrusion securely in place as you cut. Now, on the miter saw and the chop saw, they have a vise that's built in. If you're using a jig saw, then you're going to need some type of a vise or a strong clamp to hold it steady while you're cutting, or it's going to vibrate or move around all over the place. And honestly, if you don't have any of those saws, can't borrow one or procure one, or don't want to spend the money on them, then certainly a hacksaw will give you a very nice, clean, straight cut. You can use an inexpensive miter box for cutting those 45-degree angles for your tongue and groove, and that works just great. You're going to use a little bit more elbow grease, but that's how I built all my first cases back in the day, and it worked fine. I was a little tired, but nice, clean cuts. So there you have it. There's the recommended blades and the different types of saws that you can use. Make your job easy and do it right, and use the right cutting blade. From DIY Road Cases, thanks, and we'll see you on the next one.